All right, so let's talk about Windbreaker, aka Positive Masculinity, the anime, as myself and many other fans have been calling it. I watched this one earlier this year, like 5 or 6 months ago, because I saw a clip on the internet of the fights, and I was like, oh, these are actually like really well choreographed. The animation is phenomenal, and honestly, in my opinion, it stands ahead above a lot of other fights that I see. And I went into it for the fights. But what I wasn't expecting is to stay for the characters and the character development and like just the overall relationships, because that is the thing that I think sets this anime apart, is that the characters experience in the 2 seasons that have been animated so far, experience a wide range of emotions and also like have growth, which is phenomenal. But yeah, today I'm just gonna be talking about some of the aspects that I think really align with positive masculinity and how this anime really does a great job of showing what it is to, not be toxic in your masculinity and be positive. I don't know. But yeah, let's get into it. If you haven't watched it yet, mild spoiler warning, but yeah, let's start. All right, so just some minor plot details to set the scene for this story, but this story follows our main character, Sakura, who arrives in this town looking to attend the school called Furin, because Sakura is more of a speaks more with his fists and not so much with his mouth kind of guy, because he's been bullied for his appearance, as he has like half black, half white hair. And that has kind of caused a lot of social issues, and he's just more or less been an outcast who's always kind of like relied on his like fighting ability to just kind of get by. And he's heard about this school Furin, where it's more of like a might makes right type of place, and like the strongest are at the top of the hierarchy, and that draws him to this town and to this school because he wants to go there and be the top dog at that school. But the thing is, he shows up in town and everyone's really nice to him. He's really confused. He's like, what's going on here? Why is everyone so like nice? I'm not used to this. And then he, ends up protecting one of the townspeople. And then on top of that, the guys from the school show up to help him with this kind of protection that he's doing, because there are a lot of guys he was fighting at that time. And then he comes to realize that, oh, actually, like this school isn't what I thought it was, because these guys actually have a moral code. They fight to protect the town. They do like community service. They're actually very nice to the people here. And that's not what he was expecting, because he is socially not on that wavelength. It's very different from his own experience, because the people there are nice to him, whereas he has been practically bullied the entire time when he didn't live there. And basically, the story follows his adventures along with his classmates, fighting these other delinquent groups that are kind of a threat to the townspeople and as well as like other people in the school, while also kind of just like learning more about himself and his other classmates learning more about themselves and growing closer and developing those really strong bonds that help them get through the fights, that help them like really become friends and really just like lean on each other, and like be there for each other. So yeah, it's a really nice kind of like growth of someone realizing that it's okay to open up, and honestly, opening up is how you build the bonds that you need to get where you want to go. Because Sakura does want to be the top dog of the school, but he's told by multiple people that, hey, you're not going to be able to do that by yourself. And so he realizes this and he starts collecting allies basically, but his allies in turn change him and make him more open and receptive to other people's feelings and more able to express himself as well. And it's just a really beautiful thing to watch. So okay, so we can't talk about positive masculinity in this anime without talking about Sakura and where he's at the beginning of the show and where he's at the end of season 2. And I just want to say, I think where he's at the beginning is very much the archetype for what society might expect a man to be, because Sakura, due to his background being bullied for his appearance, has developed a very hard exterior, and as a result is not very good at like accepting other people's feelings, for one, even if they're positive, and also giving his own feelings out in a way that doesn't involve punching people or that doesn't involve using some sort of violence or abrasive language. And because of that, it makes it really hard for him to navigate the world. And he's always been alone up until he shows up in this town. Like he's always, I gotta rely on myself. I'm the only one I can trust. And that's isolated him away from everyone who I guess existed in his life previously. But then he shows up to this town and he meets Kotaha, who works at, I guess it's kind of like a diner. She works at like kind of like the diner place. And she's telling him when he's like, oh yeah, I want to be the top of the school. She's like, listen, you cannot get there by yourself. Like you can try, but realistically, if you want to be the top of the school, you need to learn to lean on other people. You need to learn to let people in. You need to learn to be strong in that way, because without that, you're not going to get very far. And it's really interesting seeing him like, meet classmates like Nire, especially Nire, because Nire is someone who doesn't know how to fight, which in a show where everyone knows how to fight really well, that's not a great setup for you. But Nire is arguably Sakura's right hand or like one of his closest friends because they had a really just like interesting dynamic where they met. I believe Sakura saved him from because he was trying to protect someone else, but obviously he can't fight. So then Sakura steps in, saves him, protects him, and Nire then looks up to him, and also as a result wants to become physically stronger for Sakura. But so that's the part of Sakura that rubs off on Nire. But the part of Nire that rubs off on Sakura is that Nire is very much like wants to get to know Sakura, wants to like get to understand him. Sakura being very closed off is like not like that. He's very confused by this whole like I save this person and they didn't look at me and go, ew, disgusting, your hair is half black and half white, what are you doing, you freak? But he and Nire kind of like have this really close bond where they rub off on each other. And it's not just those two. Suo, who's another one of his classmates, also rubs off on Sakura and Nire, and they just have this really nice bond with each other. And it's just really nice to see because Sakura, in the span of, I believe, 24, 25 episodes, he goes from not being able to open up at all to anyone to being able to open up at the very least to his closest classmates to be able to express like like when they're in a group brawl and he feels like he messed up and put people in danger, he's like, I really messed up. I'm sorry I put you guys in danger. Like that was wrong. And his classmates are like, what are you talking about? Like we went there as a team. We went there together. We went there to like throw these blows, throw these punches, and take those punches together. We lean on each other. We protect each other, and it's just so amazing because it's like there's not a lot of shows I feel like that really get into that like being open with your emotions, especially in a all guys kind of setting because the school is all guys, in a way that just kind of like makes it feel like these guys are really vulnerable with each other. They're really open with each other. They protect each other's like ideologies and the way they want to dress, the way they want to act. And by the end of this season, Sakura is very much committed to protecting the way Furin does things, protecting the people in his class, protecting his upperclassmen even, and protecting the town as well and the people in the town. And he is still not the best at accepting their feelings because it takes a lot to get over what he went through before, but he's getting better at it. He's just getting better and better at accepting people's feelings and also being more vulnerable with his classmates and telling them how he's feeling and how he understands the world and how, breaking down those walls where he doesn't like feel the need to be alone and where he feels the want to be with other people. And that's just a really kind of like nice dynamic that I think develops. And like you kind of see him like progress and slowly open up. And I'm sure in the manga there's more. I like just started reading the manga. I started reading it from the beginning because I was like, I want to see what's different. I want to experience this stuff again. But yeah, Sakura's character is phenomenal. He's my favorite, and it's very rare. I feel like that. Actually, not rare, but like I don't feel like I always like the main characters more than everyone else. But I love Sakura's development in the first like 25 episodes of this show, and it's phenomenal. So that's one of my favorite parts. All right, so one more thing that I want to touch on is how the guys at Furin really kind of accept each other for how they are, and that really strengthens their bonds together. And I think the best example of this is Tsubaki, because Tsubaki is a guy who really enjoys girls' fashion and dressing like a girl. And when he was a middle schooler, this was an issue because he would see the girls like dressing or like looking at things, and he'd be like, wow, that's really pretty, but he wouldn't say anything. And then he started hanging out with this old couple, and the woman noticed, and she was like, hey, do you actually like this stuff? And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I do. It's weird, isn't it? And she was like, no, we'll just put you in the clothes and see how you feel. And he felt great, and he rocked with that up until high school. Like he's killing it. But the best part about this is that none of the guys are like disparaging Tsubaki because Tsubaki likes girls' fashion or like prefers to have longer hair, paint his nails, whatnot. And even Sakura, who's like new there, like shows up, meets Tsubaki, and at first is like confused. He's like, wait a minute, you're not a girl? And he's like, no, I'm like you guys. Like I'm just a guy. And it's like, is it a problem that I like dress like this? And Sakura's like, no, it looks good to me. And everyone's like, wow, like he just really accepted that. Like that's amazing. Like he really does belong here. And also like very accepting of Tsubaki's crush on Umemiya, who is the top dog of the school. Like Tsubaki does have a crush on him. But yeah, I think it's like the ability to accept guys for how they are, in all ranges of expression, because I feel like there's a rigidity to masculinity sometimes where you have to act and perform in a specific way. But I think this anime allows you to learn in a lot of ways that, hey, there's a lot of ways to be strong because, listen, Tsubaki, I do not want to take a kick from Tsubaki. Like that would probably put me in a coma. But Tsubaki is physically strong, emotionally strong, and just like everyone else in Furin, really. And I think that's because they have that strong bond where they allow each other to be themselves. They're not policing each other. They're not going, yo, why is your hair that long? Or like, why are you painting your nails? Or like, why are you wearing a skirt or whatever? Or like, why do you have an eye patch on? Or like, what? They just let each other do what they're gonna do, and they know they're gonna be there for each other no matter what. And I think that's a really great aspect of this anime. It's really like they're like this. They're building camaraderie. They're like together. They're just it's just a really beautiful thing to see. I don't know. And I feel like that doesn't come across a lot. I feel like a lot of the time when you have guys in media, it tends to characters who do not fit that like, general idea of what a guy is typically are outcasted, or that's typically a very big part of their arc. And they don't usually, I mean, they usually find like, solace with the main characters, but they don't normally find it like anywhere else. But like here it's like, the whole town accepts Tsubaki for who he is. The school accepts Tsubaki for who he is. And it's really nice to see. Like, I don't know, like I really enjoy the acceptance and the I guess also the ability to want to protect other people's like acceptance for who they are. Like I'd like no Sakura's not gonna let anyone talk trash about how Tsubaki looks. Like we already know that. And I think that's really great. I think it's like one, accepting people for who they are, and then also protecting people, protecting people's identity and who they are. And I think that's something that a lot of people can learn from, and I think that's another great aspect of this show. So yeah. An important aspect of the story is how Furin rubs off on the other delinquent groups or schools that they end up fighting and clashing with, because one of the actually it is really the very first arc, involves this group that has a first in command who is very much a might makes right kind of guy, loves fighting for the sake of fighting and just fighting strong people, and as a result is very much like, anyone who's weak can like get out of our crew. We're gonna take your leather jacket. We're gonna like, you can just sleep on the streets. We don't care about you. And the second in command is a guy who more or less goes along with this. But what we find out later in the arc is that there was a turning point where the first in command guy was just very happy, very much like open, wanting to be with his friends, wanting to hang out with his friends. But he was so much stronger than everyone else that he felt like he could not truly be free for whatever reason. And that makes him really just kind of like start locking it down, where it's like, yeah, no, everyone needs to be strong. Everyone needs to be as strong as I am, or very strong at least, so that we can all be free together. And the second in command guy, unfortunately, at the time, disagrees with this, doesn't feel that the first in command guy should be shouldering this like emotional burden himself, but he is unable to say anything and does not stop him from doing this. And as a result, it makes the entire group kind of go off the rails, because they're more similar to Furin prior to the events of the story occurring, from what I understand, from what I saw in the flashbacks. But basically, Furin ends up having to have like a 1v1 with them, and like, well, not really a 1v1, more like a 5v5, I believe, in like a 1v1 type of format, where they're each kind of like boxing each other. And in this format, it's a very much like, and like obviously I don't recommend this in real life, but the whole thing is like, you're conveying your honest feelings through fists, and basically by like, they literally beat the toxic masculinity out of these guys. Like, Sakura beats the second in command guy so badly, really, that he realizes like, oh, you know what, I should have done something. I should have been more honest with my feelings. And I'm like, that's crazy that he did that, but honestly, yeah. And then first in command guy rocks second in command guy in the face or whatever, and like, while he's more or less defenseless, Sakura ready to throw a punch for some guy he was just fighting, because he now understands him on a better level. And yeah, the whole arc just kind of ends with those guys like going back to the way they were, and just kind of like really being more open with each other, being more able to rely on each other and talk about their feelings. And I feel like that first group really is a great stand-in for like what happens in a lot of guy groups, honestly, where you don't open up too much, or like, a lot of things are reserved. You don't necessarily feel like you can tell people how you feel all the time, and it's just very much like we do this thing, we do this activity or whatever, and that's just what we do. But that's a very nice kind of like set piece there. And then I think like the final arc, the last arc of season 2, and yeah, the last arc of season 2 actually does a really good job as well, because it's more of less a gang of guys who all grew up on the streets together, and all have basically like relied on each other to like kind of get what they need, but they're also kind of being used to do terrible things to other people. Like they're basically like assaulting this girl where they're like, yeah, actually, we're like, you need to come with us or else we're gonna beat up everyone in this town or like this sector of town. And there's a massive brawl, and basically, again, they they beat some sense into these guys. We're like, hey, we can give you, or like, we can give you a better path to do things. You don't have to do things like in a violent way if you don't like you don't have to use violence. You can like open up to people and ask people for help because these guys while they were helping each other, they weren't really able to get help from anyone else because people were disparaging them because again they live on the streets. They were doing a lot of different things to like try and get by. But someone finally, Subaki, who one of my favorite characters as well, he's amazing. Basically like extends them a hand and is like, we can give you like jobs to do things and like you can actually like earn an honest living, and that again turns them around where they're able to kind of shed the aggression from the stress and really just kind of like actually be more in tune with their other emotions. And that's just really nice. I love how the characters rub off on the other groups that they encounter and that they honestly fight with. And again, don't recommend throwing hands with anyone that you have a disagreement with because we live in a real world where that will catch you a charge. But in this show, it's very fun to watch, and it's really fun to watch the toxic masculinity leave people as they are knocked out. Yeah. I think this show does a really good job with the protector role as well, because that's a really big thing for a lot of guys who are like, gotta be protector, gotta be big bad protector or whatever. But I really enjoy how this show takes that and doesn't just even apply it in just a physical sense of like being physically strong, because all these guys are physically strong. Like that's more or less the plot of this anime. Basically, everyone has some level of physical strength, even Nire. And it's like, yeah, physically strong, but they're also very much emotionally strong in the sense that they are allowed to lean on each other and be there for each other and support each other emotionally, which I feel like is something that, like, in masculinity is not something that is always a space that guys hold. Like there's an emphasis on being physically strong and being able to physically weather any challenge, but not being able to emotionally weather any challenge. And this anime really allows there to be an emotional space where like these guys are like there to like protect each other's emotions, like take each other's emotions. Like when someone like, comes in and is like, yo, like my friend has been kidnapped and beat up by this rival gang basically, and I don't know what to do. Like I'm just at a loss. I'm just distraught about this. They give that guy space to tell them this. They give that guy space to like vent, and then they go and do what they need to do physically. And again, after that event, because this is like the end of season 1, beginning of season 2. When Sakura was talking about like how he feels at fault for people getting hurt and bruised up in that fight, they hold space for him to do that. But then they're like, yo, come on, like this is what we do. Come on, we're there for each other. We back each other up. And yeah, it's just a really nice thing that they have the protector role physically, but also the fact that they protect each other emotionally, and the fact that they're there for like, holding each other accountable, but also just like, yo, I have your back. And like, if you need to tell me anything, if you need to vent, you can do that. You can be open with me. And that's just a really nice aspect of this anime. And I feel like that's just something that a lot of guys in real life could learn something from, is like being able to be emotionally strong for the people in your life, not even just romantic interests or like family members, but also for your friends. Like really just be there for them emotionally, like open up and stuff. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I think it's like one of, again, the best aspects of this anime watching it. Okay, so I think I covered everything that I wanted to address that I think kind of like associates with positive masculinity from this anime, or at least from it so far, because I'm not caught up to where the anime ends in the manga, and I'm sure there's more stuff afterwards that I'll see. But yeah, all that just to say, I think this is a great show. I think it showcases what a guy should be and what masculinity should be as an ideal, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. Show your little brother this anime. Show your little cousin. Get them started early. Show them how it's okay to emotionally lean on people, but also like you need to be able to like take that emotion, like be someone else's like emotional shelter sometimes. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a really good show, and I hope anyone who stuck around, didn't care too much about spoilers, ends up checking it out and maybe showing it to someone else. But that's all for me from now, and yeah, I hope to see you guys soon.